Hello and welcome to your appointment viewing here on Primetime on NewsX. We are now 100 episodes in 5 months. That's 100 hours of primetime programming dedicated to bringing you the voices of India's creative entrepreneurs, wealth creators, the people who in the boat of the economy of India, which we're in together, have to come out there with all guns blazing, for which they need our help and support, but more importantly, they need our mind space. That we want to go out there and believe that right here, the best brains, the best products, the best ideas are right here. We don't have to keep looking to Silicon Valley. Let's open up this special broadcast by introducing those joining us on the panel this evening. We have Raghuram Kuchibatla. He is the director of Yes Poho India. Sagar Pushp, co-founder and CEO of Clan Connect, Pankaj Singh, founder and CEO of Multi Living Technologies, and Seshadri Kulkarni, CEO of Digit Secure. And as always, Anurag Batra, editor-in-chief of Business World, joining us on the broadcast. Anurag ji, set up tonight's conversation.
Thank you. As we've said, there is a linkage between lives and livelihood. While Corona and COVID threaten the lives, they've also impacted livelihood. So having a perspective on how livelihoods are being enhanced by entrepreneurs and business people does figure in the conversation that we need to have with the stakeholder. So let me start by asking Sagar Pushp, how have been the last 200 days for you, and how have you pivoted in your business?
So honestly, for us, these 200 days have been I would rather say been quite encouraging, and essentially because our industry, which is influencer marketing, has seen a surge with the entire pandemic and a lot of regular mainline advertising activities taking a hit because of studios getting shut, people not being able to travel. So brands naturally had to promote their advocacy using influencers. So in that sense, our industry, the domain in which we are operating has seen quite an upsurge, contrary to a lot of businesses, of course, which have not, which have taken a major hit because of the pandemic.
Okay. And in terms of spends, if in the first 5 months spends had gone down, have they been coming up in August and September? And give us a sense through numbers. So if the spends had gone down, has the August-September spends made up for what went down?
Yes. So if I were to give you realistic figures, we were hit somewhere around the month of March and April, and since then, influencer marketing as a category has like I said, seen an upsurge. We have more than enough made up for all the backlog which was there, and for our industry as such. Not just August, September, I would say a few months before that itself, we had started seeing traction and in terms of, revenues getting bigger and bigger.
So, and, right now is Diwali, a pre-Diwali season, 14 November is Diwali, IPL is on, so naturally brands will be active. But beyond November, do you see the same level of activity, or do you have concerns about how brands may again go on a pause?
Especially for influencer marketing as an industry, I would see this kind of stabilizing after a few months. I would not hope this goes down drastically, because that is something which as a category itself has been increasing in a very, very big manner. And with things kind of slowing down after the festivities are over, we would not really see, because something or the other, because brands need to be relevant, they need to have advocates in the market, they need to have influencers talking about
it. So you see the activity and spends continuing. That's a positive trend. Let me bring in Raghuram. Raghuram, how have been the last 6 months for you? How have you pivoted in your business? And most importantly, how do you see the next 3 to 6 months?
Sure. We are an online platform connecting artisans directly with the customers through social engagement. So prior to the COVID itself, we were actually growing pretty well But since COVID March, I mean, all of a sudden there was not only an activity in commercial activity drop, but also in the user engagement on our platform. That's because everybody was scrambling as to what needs to happen, what needs to do, and all that, right? I mean, that's the reality. But since August, we have been ramping up again. Our social activity has been increasing. We've been growing on the social engagement itself, 30% over month to month. Now with the season coming up, where our artisans are really busy trying to push their products through the platform, and with I think there's also a customer sentiment that they've got to do something for Dussehra and Diwali just for that hope to come up, right? So we are actually seeing activity on our platform increasing. I think this will continue till December, but again, like Sagar said, we hope this trend doesn't fall off and we don't get hit by another wave of corona, that the sentiment again becomes negative.
Okay, let me also ask, what are the drivers of the growth in August and September? And tell us, what are the consumer behaviors that you think have changed permanently? And what are behaviors that are temporary? Because right now, whatever we are doing it out of compulsion. It may not be out of choice. So tell us, how does that impact your business?
Yeah, mine being an online platform, right? People have started browsing online for purchases more than it was before, and they've become more conscious.
That's a given. Just to give you a data point, 20 years of e-commerce in the US saw 16% of the overall retailing having been online, but in the last 7 months, it's become 26%. So 0 to 16 in 20 years and 16 to 26 in 7 months. So that acceleration has happened. I think that's a given. Give us more granularity into trends in your domain.
Okay, the trends itself, there's a change in what the customer is looking for, especially in my part of the business where we bring in technology and retail together, retail tech. So customers are asking for more of what they can do by themselves, meaning create your own designs or creating certain aspects of the product itself, as opposed to something getting pushed from the weaver or the artisans, right? That is one behavior that we are seeing. The second is the questions of what is the kind of quality that they're getting, right? Because now a lot of people, like you said, the trend has moved online, so the quality factor have started to pick up. Also saying, is this the right quality and all that? So whatever they used to get on as a physical shopping experience, right now they're expecting it as an online experience.
Thank you so much. Mr. Kulkarni, again, I would like to ask, what has happened to your business in the last 6 months, and where do you see it headed over the next 3 to 6 months?
You know, interestingly, the digital payments industry has rebounded very fast. Almost 80% of the pre-pandemic.
You're literally laughing away to the bank. Okay.
Right.
Digital industry, payments industry is literally laughing.
Yeah, it's what a human being couldn't do. A germ had come and changed everything for us. So,
Seshu, I keep saying that the chief digital officer of most organizations and sectors is COVID now.
Yeah,
Digital
right.
transformation
Right.
head is COVID. And that's not an overstatement.
Yeah. So what's happening is that the merchants or the businesses that are providing omni-channel commerce are seeing, net out, right? Physical transactions not happening, people moving to online and all that. The folks who are struggling a little bit are in the physical space too. That has also come back up with the lockdowns coming back. The industries that are specifically impacted a lot, without me saying anybody would know, is travel and hospitality. Those are high volume, they're not mini transactions, but high volume high value transactions and all that. That has offset, but overall it is growing. One area where we think is where we need to focus on going forward is the small merchant segment. A lot of them are cash accepting merchants. They contribute to almost 6% of our GDP. And a lot of them are actually going belly up during this whole period and all. How do we actually help them going forward in becoming more digitizing and helping them accept card payments or any form of digital payments. So that's great. Our business, though we are in the physical payment space, what saved us a lot is we support payment on delivery, or what is the cash on delivery. Now you pay with a card or something like that. So with a lot of business moving to e-commerce and delivery happening and all that saved us quite a bit in terms of.
Thank you so much. Let me go to Pankaj. Pankaj, you heard your fellow panelists. Tell us how has your business been transformed in the last 6 months, and what's the outlook for your business over the next 3 to 6 months?
Sure, sir. So, Multi-Living, my firm deals with, it's an online platform for which operates in the space of hospitality-led managed tenancy. Since the second half of March, honestly, the month of April and May, in terms of demand, they were very, very down. But in terms of supply, in terms of our aggregation of property owners, we saw 5x growth in the first 3 months. We saw a flock of property owners looking out for professional institutions, using technology to, helping them ease out management of property. So on the supply side, it's been tremendous. In terms of demand, we've seen an upsurge since June, July, specifically with our product, which is more professional, hospitality-led, takes care of all the protocols when it comes to hygiene and security. There has been a huge demand. In fact, we hit our pre-COVID numbers sometime in July. And this is the second month in a row when we are doing triple-digit numbers. I think the amount of time and money that we've invested during this phase on technology and developing products which provide convenience and ease to the customers, especially in an unorganized industry such as rental and managed tenancy, that's been. I mean, we were very, very well poised at the time when the pandemic hit us, and honestly, it's been a boon for us the last 6 months in terms of our growth.
Fantastic. Now, let me ask you some larger questions about business and economy. In each of your business, of course, technology transformation and digital enablement has played a role of a multiplier. But everything is dependent on how the economy does, what is the demand, what is the quality of credit available. So I'd like to know, when do you see the Indian business and economy landscape becoming normal, demand being in full bloom? Do you see it happening in 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months? Let me start with you, Pankaj.
Sir, if you ask me, especially with the festive season around the corner, and the more we hear from our government, which has promised and has recently started demand-focused stimulus, and with the lockdown easing out, restrictions being moved up, we can expect more. So in my view, post the pandemic, post the festive season, we could see a lot of industries coming back to their pre-COVID, or maybe reaching very, very close to their peak pre-COVID business levels.
How much time, when you say post-festive season, is 1 month, 2 months, 6 months?
Probably by the end of this quarter, probably. This festive season is definitely going.
You mean December?
Yeah, in my view, this festive season is definitely going to give a boost with the restrictions being eased out. A large section of population will be mobilized. People moving out, stepping out, which will give a boost to consumerism, right? Having said that, in my view, the gloomy part of the lockdown, of the pandemic, hopefully is over. And if it doesn't hit us again, if we go by the predictions of, I was reading that our economy has contracted by 23% in the last quarter. It is predicted to contract that has to go down. That will go down by another minus 10%. And in the first quarter of the next year, we might see a growth. In fact, the IMF has predicted that our economy would grow faster than China in the next year, around 8.8%. In my view, the gloomy part is over, unless we are struck by this COVID part 2 again, or some other pandemic again. In my view, it is optimistic. We should expect more stimulus from the government. Maybe in the next 6 months, we should see an upsurge and probably coming back to pre-COVID level of business very soon for a lot of categories, for a lot of industries.
Sagar Pushp, what's your view?
So I would say that Pankaj's view are slightly a bit, more optimistic than what I think. It is definitely starting to get better, but and with government, pumping stimulus, I don't think that is also enough. And it's also a very catch-22 situation because you don't know which way is this pandemic going to go from here.
Yeah.
While overall the numbers have been coming down, there are industries which will kind of start to recover faster. But again, India as a country is it's a mix of organized and non-organized sectors which are there. It is very important for us to boost the unorganized sector which is there, because that's essentially a large part of the people who contribute to the economy of the country. That is again dependent upon a lot of other things coming back to normal, including hospitality, including a lot of other sectors which are people intensive. Things are getting normal. In my opinion, we are still about a year from now before they become, I would not say pre-COVID level, but yes, maybe a 60 to 70% recovery, provided the core of this entire discussion is where this pandemic goes. If there is a if there's a vaccine that comes in, for example, in next 3 months, I think this recovery will be much faster.
Naturally, because there is a fear factor. That fear factor would go down, enabling people to go to hotels more, hopefully cinema halls when they open up, hopefully fly more. I mean, most employees are very scared to come to office. If they're given a choice, most of them are not coming to office. So clearly there is a fear factor. So if the vaccine comes, of course, things could change for the positive very fast. But if COVID persists and the vaccine gets delayed, we know the vaccine will come. It's about the timeline of the vaccine. So that's a very important factor that will. Raghuram, what's your view?
Absolutely. Like we've talked about, right? India has lot of unorganized sectors, artisans, the small retailers, the ones with the cash and all that. They are significantly impacted. So even with yesterday's government announcement, I truly believe that it's a very small package that they have announced just to boost the current demand, which could die down very quickly right after the festival season. And I wouldn't question how many people will actually take that money and actually spend on it, because of the same fear factor that's there, that what happens if I lose my job, right? And so on and so forth. So more stimulus from the government should definitely come in. I mean, until the fact that people get this confidence, because consumer confidence is, after all, the most important one. And also, I feel that the government should create more stimuluses for small businesses, enterprises, and even households, so that this can push the growth, start pushing the growth. I mean, you don't want only one engine to fire, you want to fire on all cylinders, right? And they have to keep pushing until one, vaccines come in, second, we know the effectiveness of all this vaccine, whether it works or not, because at this point, everything is
artisans have two issues. One is go to market, second is availability of raw materials. With the supply chain having been disrupted, both the supply side and demand side may have got impacted. So you're right, we may need to do more to be able to support these micro level entrepreneurs and artisans in terms of being able to keep their livelihoods intact, or be able to come out of the losses in the last 7 months. Seshu Kulkarni, what's your view?
I'm fairly optimistic. I think the recovery is not going to be secular. Like I said, there will be some segments which would be impacted, like travel and hospitality. It may take about 6 months or more than 6 months to recover. But what is important from a digital payment standpoint is that it is not yet increasing spend. How much can I convert from cash to digital, right? That's happening.
The performance matters.
Yeah.
ROI matters more than ever. The money that you spend, you want an output for it. Even in the firms that are funded, VCs and investors are looking at making sure that every dollar is, so to say, stretched, and there is an outcome, and the measurability of that outcome has also become very important. So I'm with you that digital enablement must lead to outcomes that are sustainable and profitable.
They will be very sustainable. I mean, anything you do, there will be some regression that happens after a period of time. given this long drawn thing with pandemic about 9 months, people are now used to using debit card, not for just for ATM cash withdrawals, but also for making purchases online and all that. People are used to contactless because the awareness has grown significantly. Earlier, people were not aware of how to use contactless payments and all that. There is increasing awareness of using QR-based payments and all that. And this will stay because they understand the convenience it offers and the speed and also the safety and security around it.
Okay.
What we are doing on our end is from Digit Secure is that we are coming up with much more innovative solutions, taking advantage of this current situation and this small merchants situation and all that. We are building an application-based acceptance solution. Right now, you have a point of sale hardware and all that. We are going to just take that out, disrupt it out, and we'll just enable acceptance on a simple mobile phone device by downloading an application.
Okay.
So that's where we are going.
Okay, I'm just going to interject here slightly before we take a break and try to just ask a few questions. Raghuramji, what is required? Because the approach so far that we're getting indicative is that as a country and a government, we are looking at structural change. The focus is not so much on the physical side, it's on the structural side, that when we do come out of it, that we will come out of it fundamentally different from where we were, very similar to what happened in 1991, maybe bigger. What would be the one or two things that would help what you are doing directly, either you or the artisans you work with? One or two things that would help you guys directly where you feel that we can't wait, this is emergency SOS intervention still required?
A few things. I mean, it's a combination. One, educate all these artisans, which is what we are actually doing right now. I mean, this is a beautiful opportunity. Sorry for the pandemic and everything, right? But it's a beautiful opportunity for us where we are able to onboard artisans and even small retailers, the cash-based ones, very quickly onto our platform. Easy to convince them because they need sales at this point.
Okay, so what's the intervention required?
Sorry?
What is the intervention required? If we were to have a to-do list, I've just mentioned to you that the focus is on structural reform, not so much on physical, right? Putting money into people's pockets. It's being done, but it's being done a very, very cautiously targeted way. So what is the without doubt intervention required, sir?
What is need to be done at this point is completely ensure that the transactions go through, and more of use of technology is very important at this time, and educating them, saying, come on board, this is the new world, this is the new norm.
Okay, so the educating part you guys are doing, so that's not really somewhere where government intervention is required. Same question to you, Pankaj. What is the place where intervention is required? If we have to look at 2020 as the next 1991, what would make your life easier versus what is the help that is still required, that without which, there won't be people standing 6 months later, 1 year later, let alone thriving?
So I'll talk about the housing sector. So a lot of stimulus has been given, especially on the supply side, by the government especially in the last couple of months. Steps like offering the last mile liquidity, which will probably help in completion of a lot of inventories. So you will see a good, affordable and good amount of supply coming in affordable and mid-income housing. But probably the government is waiting to have some certainty around the COVID, and we should expect some stimulus to boost the demand side also. Steps like reduction of, the interest rate in any case are at an all-time low.
They've been extending the subventions, etc. So that was part of the stimulus package.
Yeah. So on the demand side, I'm saying that the borrowing rate is low. State government, especially in Maharashtra, has taken a step of reducing the stamp duty, which has seen its immediate impact of old cases being registered, boost in sales numbers, etc. But similar steps and boosting and relaxation around GST, probably more relaxation around borrowing rates in the stamp duty, etc.
Is there a crisis? Pankaj, is there a crisis? The real estate industry, which has been going through crisis after crisis after crisis for the past 6-7 years, is there a crisis? Do we need SOS intervention or do we need tweaks?
I would say tweaks, at least to start off and to give some fuel to that growth engine, and then we will see. The real estate has been in that, the last two or 3 years has been problematic for real estate. the demonetization, the coming in of GST, etc. And now the pandemic obviously hasn't helped.
Okay.
The moment that the
So
sector looks
emerging
at
industries. Let's rope in Sagar onto this. Sagar, Pushp, what you are dealing with is a non-traditional emerging industry, but the realization for a lot of people, including those watching this broadcast, that there are many people out there whose livelihoods are dependent upon. They put a lot of investment into their social media accounts. It's not something that you click a photograph and get 1 million followers. There are things you have to organize. There are commercial transactions that take place, and your money, the money of your maybe camera person or the person who's a set director or a makeup artist, a stylist, is dependent upon this industry. Is there a requirement in that specific industry that still requires outside intervention?
I would say it is one of those industries which is not, if I were to take advertising as a umbrella industry and comment on that, there are sectors, of course, which are hit, but that is a requirement that that brands have. So they have pivoted from the traditional advertising side towards more of what we are doing, which is influencer marketing. But yes, I would take this question as saying that while this is a situation where they're trying to do put stimulus, ensure that there's liquidity that is maintained, the demand and the supply side has been relaxed. It is also a time to basically prepare for the future. So when you're down or when you're out, you basically find out solutions. How can you actually tackle this?
Okay, practical question then. Is it for people watching the broadcast? Can you make a living as an influencer now?
You certainly can. I mean, to be very honest, in our industry, we have only seen an upsurge. And there are influencers, there are more and more influencers who are coming onto our platforms. Brands are, Pankaj knows about it. We've been dealing with them as well. So they are looking at, brands are looking at different ways of reaching out to their target.
The reason I'm asking this question, the same thing happened with, big platforms like a YouTube, is that the number of people, let's say the number of brands investing in influencer marketing keeps going up, but it doesn't match the pace at the number of people who then aspire to become influencers. So you have a lot more people with the 50,000, 100,000, 200,000, 500,000 followers, 1 million followers, and right. The two growths are not happening at the same rate.
And if I may comment, I want to comment that also because I understand this domain deeply, influencers' values in terms of value realization and yields had not necessarily gone up in the last 6 months. In fact, like a lawyer's fees have been halved, dare I say influencers' fees with the same amount of activity have not necessarily gone up. There may be exceptions to the rule, but having founded Exchange for Media, I have some familiarity with that ecosystem.
Yeah,
Second,
good point.
I want to say to all the brands and business owners watching, I've said this 5 times before on NewsX, in good times, you should advertise. In bad times, you must advertise. So if brands that must advertise really build superior market shares and profitability.
Well, you got to sell, but take that thing, because this is the dichotomy that more and more people then are aspiring, but the revenue generation, even if it's happening at 2x or at 50%, 60%, 70% growth, doesn't keep up. How do you then advise people who are getting into this space as a living?
So it is a very good question, and this question is asked to a lot of big influencers as well. I would take it head on, saying that it is not a fad. It is a serious business. So you do not become an influencer because you want to become one, right? It is there in every industry where be it cricket, be it sport, be it entertainment, movies. You need to be the best, or at least amongst the best. So if you're aspiring to become an influencer, be serious about it. Be serious about the treatment that you're giving to the content that you're creating. And if your content is good, you will find the organic reach that you're looking at. And it's a slow process.
Okay.
You can't reach to the level where maybe you're bidding or you're aspiring to become one influencer with having maybe 14 or 10 million followers. So it is something.
It's a process. Okay. Quick follow-up question before I go to Mr. Kulkarni. Then we take a break. how is the trend changed? Because, influencers, then you have travel influencers, people who are traveling a lot, then you have style influencers, content influencers. Has that trend changed because people have been locked down, because more people are stuck at home, so there's only X you can do?
Yes, totally agree to that. So there are certain categories and genres of influencer marketing which have taken a hit, especially anything to do with hospitality and travel. While it started to pick up, people have been a bit careful in terms of starting off their travels again. But there are industries like, technology, like mobile phone as such. These are the genres, electronics and all, which have like gone up the roof. Because that demand has not gone down. The sale of mobile phones have gone up the roof. So yes, it is very industry specific. There are the ones which have taken a hit. Food as a category.
Okay. I have so much I have to ask you, what happens to an influencer when the entire platform gets taken down? You know that context of TikTok, but we'll come back and do this after the break. Mr. Kulkarni, what is the intervention that is still required? Because as I mentioned, the approach is a structural approach. We want 2020 to be the next 1991, but there are going to be areas where direct fiscal involvement, intervention will still be required. What is left after all that's already been announced?
Well, besides what the government of India is doing, the regulator is also doing quite a bit in the payments industry to drive digital payments. Selfishly, I would say what is needed is that there is a lot of ask around Make in India and all that. Some of us have built the solutions, digital solutions, low-cost acceptance solutions and all that. Government should give us an opportunity to help, roll this out and test this thing. So it would be very useful for the.
Give me an example. How do we create, the best 1,000, 2,000 apps in India that that are verifiably done by you guys, wealth creators out of India?
Well, we don't create apps. What we have done is that we have created one app for card acceptance, right? It's just using a mobile phone, you do card acceptance. Right now, that doesn't happen. Now, there are so many use cases within the government segment that, the smart cities or whatever it is, give these kind of companies an opportunity to try this out, make it an incubator or help them out so they can also test and probably refine this.
Which is why this broadcast is about. We want people out there to know more about stuff that is being done by Indian entrepreneurs, some of which is really, really smart alternatives, some good ideas, so that there is a mind space and more people try it out, and then you'll be surprised at what all is already available out there. We have been in the middle of a fascinating conversation. Let me take it a step ahead. Raghuram ji, is this the golden opportunity? Are we giving izzat when we, especially the people that you deal with, that's as make local, vocal, India, indigenous as you can get? Do you see this, that this is going to be the pivotal year where we will get izzat to the Indian artisans, all of us sitting on our app and working on all these e-commerce platforms, actually come to yours and buy local?
Absolutely. We are actually talking about changing the fundamental core problem, addressing the core problem for the artisan industry, and at the same time solving a major customer status quo problem. So this is a beautiful time, an opportunity where not only are we becoming more digital, we are finding new solutions where artisans can be more productive. They don't have to rely on all these government programs going forward when we do this program right. At the same time, customers can break this existing status quo saying, hey, why is it done this way? Why? The entire culture can be changed and adapted, and people can just move forward saying, this is the new norm. Here's what I can do. I can create my own design. I can now send that particular design as an experience to my artisan, and the artisan can then manufacture, give it back to me. So that brings the closeness, and it also brings about a change in mindset and how people can perceive products coming out going forward.
So is the cost sensitivity in a time like this? You think cost sensitivity is super high, but when cost sensitivity, then a lot of the imported things become cheaper. Handicrafts may not compete. How are you guys balancing that?
Sorry, repeat this
When it
again,
comes to cost sensitivity, how do I not then simply buy the same thing which is being mass produced in China?
Now, what we are looking at is personalization and customization, which is what the industry that I'm dealing in requires at this point in time. right? So there's no mass production like mass manufacture of cars and all that stuff, right? In this case, it's very close to the customer themselves saying, okay, how does this particular sari or this particular women's apparel look, and how does it look on me, me as being a customer? So it is more customization and more personalization in this case.
Okay, so customization, personalization, that's the handicraft, hand-touched, handloom, artisanal approach. So it's not mass-produced, cost calculation there, and of course the customer base is going to be slightly different. Pankaj, can we bring upon, is there a case to be made that the only way the real estate sector will be kick-started, forget 2020, 2021, if there is mass clearing of inventory, and for mass clearing of inventory, a complete relook at pricing has to be done?
I mean, that's one of the most common questions that I've been asked across panels that I've been a part of. I mean, and intuitively that looks to be the obvious answer as well. But when you dig down, you will realize that there is a larger problem out there. There's a large fear in the minds of consumers, which is sort of creating hindrances in them coming out and transacting in large volumes. The fear of stability, the fear of savings, the fear of what's going to be there a couple of months down the line. So number one, once we have that stability around that pandemic, some expectation, and when that is balanced by the stimulus from the government, whether it is
but you're addressing people watching. This is a live telecast. Are there really good mouth-watering deals out there that if you wanted to buy a house in the next 2 or 3 years, now's the moment?
If you're an end user, there are always good deals, and today's there won't be a better time than today. If you're an end user and looking out to buy a home for yourself, it's the best time probably to go out there and look out and hunt for those deals. There are deals out there.
So yes. I'll take that as a yes. I would love to say the real estate entrepreneurs are giving mouth-watering deals for people, once in a lifetime kind of opportunity. Yes. Sagar, coming to that question I was hinting at earlier. Now, in an entire industry that is dependent upon platforms, now we're all dependent on platforms. Internet doesn't work, none of us work, right? So what is the lesson learned here from the exit of TikTok? Because a lot of people would have spent a lot of time developing their profiles there, and now there are alternatives available, but you'll have to then, I won't say start from scratch, but you have to relook at what you're doing. So what's the lesson learned here?
So the lesson is one that you cannot afford to keep all the eggs in one basket. That's one. Second, I would, all of us, I was working closely with TikTok as an advertising platform, and never would we have thought that, there could be another alternative to TikTok. It just needed the exit of TikTok to basically think, biggies like Instagram. And then there are so many other players like Raposo. There is, a few other names.
Yeah, now you have Josh and Chingari.
Josh from Daily Hunt, there is Chingari. There are many.
There is definitely always a scope for if you have the pull and the platform, a robust one, you can still create a space. And that's what the exit of TikTok has kind of proved to all of us.
Okay, I thought you guys were going to tell me which is the next killer platform that all of us definitely need to be on. I'm still trying to figure out Instagram, but we'll come back and pull you in later. I've got a few minutes left before I hand back to Anurag. What is the next killer platform? Should it be all of them? Should be on Josh and Chingari and on Insta Reels? Should people be doing all of them, or pick one? What's the approach, Push? Sagar.
I would see for us, it's a question that should be asked to maybe the the Gen Zs. They are the right ones to answer this question.
We're still young, yeah. Come on, we're still going strong. Okay.
I would want all of you to be there on across all the platforms, because that's good for me.
I have one photograph of Instagram, and for some reason I have some followers. I don't know why, but I have one photograph on Instagram. I think when I started my account, I'm sure I need to put some more reels up there. Seshuji, Mr. Kulkarni, 2020 as a year of fundamental change, structural change, not just fiscal stimulus. We've had a parliament session in which reforms have been done, some of them contentious. Before that, we've been talking about social stability and social causes. To use the balance of the year, there will be a budget will come up very, very rapidly, sir. We're already in mid-October. Suddenly, you are at Diwali and then you have a budget coming up. Year of fundamental change. How do we remember 2020 as the year of fundamental change, not because of the crisis, but how we responded to it?
Well, we will remember 2020 in terms of, not just the stimulus or anything like that, the resilience the country and the people have shown overall. That's commendable, because when we started out, you would have never imagined that you can go like this for 6 to 9 months. But we have shown a lot of resilience. Of course, the economy has taken a hit, but lots of things have happened. People have adjusted to it. The government has played a role in it. So I would remember 2020 as a year where people have come together and shown a great amount of resilience.
Okay, maybe we've gotten faith out of what we can do in India a lot more amongst all the criticism that we have gotten used to. Maybe our focus on the economy is much more than it was a year or two ago. Maybe those are positive things that we can take away in a hell of a year. Anurag ji, we have about 12 minutes left, so take it away.
Thank you so much. Rishabh, we've been asking this to all the entrepreneurs. What are your top lockdown lessons? What has changed in the way you've been fundamentally wired? What has got added? What has got changed, which will help you do better business in 2021, in 2022, for the rest of your life? So let me start with Raghuram. What has changed in the way you do business, and what's your top lockdown lesson?
Yeah, what has changed is the traditional way of the doing business itself is completely changed for us, right? We used to do step 1, step 2, step 3 because that is how everybody used to do it this way, and the whole approach has changed. We have a new norm coming up. The top lockdown lessons is how efficiently can you run a business operation, right? Let's assume there's all of a sudden another crisis hits us. Where are my operational efficiencies are? What can I do to improve my operational efficiencies, improve my costs, decrease my costs, but at the same time, what is it that I can offer to all my market participants? So in terms of customer experiences, in terms of artisan experiences, what is it that I can do? What more can I offer them at a lower cost? Those are some of the top things that we certainly adapted very quickly as an organization. The second thing is, within the organization itself, we were able to quickly adapt, saying working remotely and still being online. People were very flexible and understandable. Commendable job that all my Spovians have done so far. That's another thing that will always be there, saying, okay, these are all the tools that we use. Do we all need all those tools? And what is the minimum set of tools that we can continue to use to improve our
Raghuram, what do you think the government can do better? Is there something that the government can do better?
Absolutely. The government can always help. Right now, they can, for medium and small businesses and startups, right, especially in this pandemic, liquidity has become a big problem, not only for startups, but even for the artisans and everyone. So it's because it's been dried up, each one's looking at the other person saying, hey, I don't have anything to do at this point in time. So if they can push more liquidity so that when things start to open up, all of our balance sheet should not look red, so that when we look at banks saying we need loans, it's going to be in red, and now banks will be more risk averse.
The government should do measures which create liquidity. Banks should be more forthcoming in lending than they have been now. Seshu Kulkarni, what's your top lockdown lesson?
I think, like I said, in every adversity, there is an opportunity. Really, I mean, if you had looked at 6 months ago, you wouldn't have imagined a lot of things that we are doing right now. And you should be very agile during this time, because consumer behavior shifts. How do you quickly adapt to it and deliver to their requirements and to their choices and all that? That's what we are looking at it. We see that there is a fundamental shift in how consumers are transacting. It is not even digital payments. Now they're as far as, I want a touchless payments. I don't want to hold anything. So that shift has to happen. So what we have learned is that in the future too, if this comes up, how would we be agile, and how do we respond to this kind of situations quickly?
And what do you think the government can do better?
The government, you see, where I am coming from and what my business focus is and all that, there is a huge government focus on moving everything digital payments and all that. Like I said, there are billions of merchants who still don't accept any digital payment. They're still cash accepting. What is that? merchants, government can do to incentivize these merchants to shift to digital payments. I mean, not permanently, but at least till they get to a certain point and understand how the digital payments work. Some kind of education, some training, and some push would be really useful to drive the country towards digital payments. And when something like this, if some uneventful thing happens in the future, we are much better equipped, and our small merchants, which are the engines of growth, are better equipped to handle these situations.
Pankaj, what is your top lockdown lesson, and what do you think the government can do better?
My top lockdown lesson would be, as an entrepreneur, you always think that you're a hustler, you're doing things fast. This lockdown has taught me that there is always a faster way. You just have to look at the right place. You just have to identify the right opportunity.
Speed of taking decisions.
Absolutely.
Agility matters.
Absolutely. There is a solution to every problem and a better solution to every problem. You just have to see it the right way. And secondly, coming to your second question, I think by the time there's a certainty around the pandemic, we all as a country should be ready, with every arsenal possible to capitalize on that, on the available opportunity. As I would say, there is the global liquidity, for example, is at an all-time high. Government will definitely take measures to make sure that there is adequate liquidity in the market, and people can make use of that. Making sure that people have credible savings with them, so that when the market is right, people are able to borrow, institutions are able to lend, and I'm expecting a lot of stimulus, specifically on the demand side, which will help us, when it comes to it. Our economy is not a modular economy; it's an integrated economy, and every cylinder has to function. Yeah, everything has to fire at simultaneously, and at the right time, with the right steps, it's going to happen.
Thank you so much. Sagar, Push, you have the final word in terms of what are your top lockdown lessons and what do you think the government can do better?
So in terms of the lesson, I would say, it's a lesson that has been reinforced. So I'm an ex-army officer. I've been in the army for 5 years. And there we would always be taught that there is no pain, that a human body and mind cannot take. And I would absolutely, believe again to the same line that when this pandemic hit us, we were able to, we've not maybe successfully come out of it, but we have fought off this entire thing very gallantly. So yes, that's one of the lessons that's been reinforced. In terms of what the government can do, would agree with what Pankaj said. In total, we have infused about 1.2% of our GDP in this entire stimulus that we have done. It can be debated till cows go home, that it should be less, more, whatever, right? It's a debatable thing, but what we must, be prepared for is to take the next segue when the pandemic starts to get better, especially for the unorganized sector. How are we ensuring that, there is liquidity that is maintained in the hands of, the people who need it the most, which is the unorganized sector, ensuring that the supply chain, which has been disrupted very badly, starts coming back to normalcy again, so that this entire, ecosystem of liquid flow and, product and supply flow, in the market is regained in not a lost, not a lot of time is lost in ensuring that happens. And of course, I'm very certain that the government is also going to put in more monies in terms of the stimulus package, as and when the situation improves. So yeah, I'm very hopeful about it.
Thank you so much. By the way, as Sagar Push, I did clear the NDA but never joined the forces, and possibly I would have been fitter like you do if I joined. But I want to say two things on this broadcast. Over the last 100 episodes, we brought in close to 400 entrepreneurs and leaders from all sectors. And I can tell you about 2-3% of them have actually benefited from the economic stimulus directly. And second thing I'd like to say that we have to applaud the government. I continue to say that the government has been very proactive, the government has been agile, and the government has made sure by providing things like food to the bottom of the pyramid, the social fabric of the nation has been kept intact. The social tensions have been kept to basic minimum. In fact, we've done well. So the government needs to be lauded for that. And it's our duty as individuals and entrepreneurs to ask ourselves, what can we contribute to the government's efforts in terms of what we do? And the last point I want to make is that, yes, we'll only know once the vaccine is announced what will happen to the economy. But one thing is definitely changed. One, never say never. Second, less is more. And third, we live in a 3C economy, in a contactless. So all businesses need to look at what can be done through a contactless way. Second is a collaborative economy. More than ever, we'll have to collaborate internally and externally. And third, what I call a compassionate and caring economy. At the end of the day, every business needs to be a social impact business. We don't have to create a separate category of social impact business. So we need to be a compassionate business enterprise. That's what, in my view, the COVID has done to our thought process. Back to you, Rishabh.
All right, gentlemen, as always, my thanks for all of you taking out time to do this. And for all of you watching the broadcast, remember why we do this telecast. So take an opportunity to check out Yes Poho India and connect with them if you want to get something specially designed by artisans all over the country. That's the platform, that's the portal you need to be checking out on. Help, when we say vocal for local, here's the example sitting right there. If you are already an influencer, you need to be calling up Sagar and figuring out how you can be better, or at least how you can make more money out of it. I can't, unfortunately, so I won't be making that call to Sagar, but I'm sure there are many of you out there. I'll put up more photographs on Instagram after this and, get on Josh and Chingari. Of course, with Mr. Kulkarni working out on digital payments as well, check out his platforms and check out Multi-Living Tech in the retail space. As always, read Business World and watch NewsX. We are all in this boat together. If we all push ourselves, we can come out of this.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.